Currently in Warframe, beam rifles are exceptionally strong. But what about a beam shotgun? Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're gonna be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 11 primary weapon, the Phage. I'm gonna be covering something cheap and affordable, something anybody can build, but of course we're also gonna have the classic endgame setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides usually follow a more new player friendly approach, simply because I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and already know most of this stuff, then please, bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Phage. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that I'm simply gonna be taking a couple of free shots. You'll notice that by default the Phage fires 7 energy beams across the entire screen. The good news is that you can focus the beams around a single point by going into aim mode. It will take 1.5 seconds for the beams to fully focus. However, you're not forced to fully focus them. If you just tap your aim button a couple of times, like so, you can get this frontal spread effect. The range is 25 meters and the status chance will be getting divided amongst your beams. Now I want to show you what multi-shot does. It will add additional beams to the weapon, even though that, mathematically speaking, it doesn't add as many as it should. Vigilante armaments together with Hell's Chamber, and you will see you're getting a lot more beams now, and once again you can focus them around a single point. Now that is multi-shot, and again the status chance will be getting divided among your beams. Now check out what minus accuracy effects does to this one. Vicious spread. This will make it so that you can hit targets to the left and to the right of your character, depending once again on how much minus accuracy effect you have on the Phage. But once again, you do get to focus all of the beams around a single point. So minus accuracy effects don't really affect the Phage all that much. So keep that one in mind. In any case, let's jump back into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. First of all, mod capacity is 60 out of 60, and if your Phage only has 30 out of 30, then jump into actions and install an Arcane Catalyst. The Arcane Catalyst can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. If you don't have access to the daily sortie just yet, progress further through the story and you will. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 6 times, but this was done for the purpose of testing. By default, the Phage does come with a minus or Naramon symbol, which I removed and made into a V. Don't ask why, you shouldn't really remove it, I simply had a whole bunch of different Rivens to test. Back to the weapon's accuracy at 50, as you saw, the minus accuracy on the Phage has a very interesting effect, and I would encourage you guys use Vicious Spread. More often than not, I simply focus the beams around a single target, but it can be fun hitting the entire screen, especially when it comes to lower level content. Critical chance is low at 19% and the multi is decent at 2.0x. Now we can go heavily into crit chance and crit damage for a bleed build, we will do that later on, and it's actually quite decent. Fire rate 12.0, magazine of 90 and a reload of 2.0. This is actually quite nice. The downtime for the Phage is rather low, so we're not gonna mess around with magazine and reload. We're gonna leave these as it is. Of course, you can go into increased fire rate, which will lower your kill time, but it's not really worth it for the Phage. Riven disposition 5 out of 5, which means that the weapon is not very popular and the Rivens will be quite nice. Status chance is 31%, which means we can reach a true 100% status chance with the 460 mods. More on that a bit later. By default, the Phage will deal viral damage, which is absolutely awesome. Viral damage currently in Warframe is a sought after elemental combo, as it will yield decent towards great results in almost every circumstance. Keep in mind that the damage you see here is the lowest of all shotguns next to the Convectrix, so it's pretty low. Keep that one in mind. As for the elemental combo, it makes you should treat it as the very last thing you have on your weapon. For example, if I want extra viral on the weapon, just adding more toxin or more cold will not do it. I need to remake the elemental combo within the weapon, like so. Then, of course, the viral damage will go up a little bit. Let's start slapping on some mods, and of course damage is mandatory, and we're gonna go with point blank 90% extra damage. If you have prime versions, then by all means go for prime versions. There's another mod that I tend to call mandatory but not 100%, Vicious Spread. Once again, 90% extra damage, just like point blank, at the cost of 60% spread, and you saw in practice how that one works. Next we're gonna go into multi-shot. How do multi-shot effects work on beam weapons anyway? As you saw here, I added Hell's Chamber with 120% multi-shot, though my status chance did not go up, even though I know I am firing multiple beams out of the weapon. In essence, multi-shot effects for beam weapons increase the weapon's damage, however they apply to the modded weapon damage value, not of the base weapon damage value. So basically this applies after point blank and vicious spread, so keep that one in mind. It's a little bit kooky, but that is simply how it works, and no, from my testing you are not getting multiple ticks out of the same beam. Next we're gonna go into status chance and status effects, and of course we're gonna need all the 4 60/60 mods to reach that magic number of 100% status chance. We're not getting tricked by multi-shot in this case. As you saw, adding Hell's Chamber did nothing for the status chance. And the 4 60/60 mods are Frigid Blast for cold, Scattering Inferno for heat, Shell Shock for electricity, and Toxic Barrage for toxin. And of course you can get to play around with these to see what exactly element you want to have. Now because the Phage does have the 4 viral damage, I can have the best of everything, and I can have corrosive with viral and with blast, unfortunately. Yes, if you would get a Riven with plus status chance and you could drop some of those 60/60 mods, you could also drop the blast. But in this case, my corrosive and blast will be of the same value, and they will be competing for procs. Now of course I still have one slot left on the weapon, and this is your option slot. Slap in this one whatever you guys feel comfortable with. You want more fire rate, go for fire rate. You want punch through? Absolutely. Speaking of punch through, the wiki states that the Phage has 0.5 meters default punch through, but in testing I honestly didn't see it, so you can definitely go for something like Seeking Force with 2.1 meters worth of punch through. In this case what I'm gonna be doing is fighting Corrupted Heavy Gunner. These guys have ferrite armor, which is weak to corrosive damage, so what I will do is increase the corrosive value of my weapon with more electricity or more toxin. Charge Shell, for example. Now my corrosive is higher than the blast, so I will be getting more corrosive procs than blast procs. And of course I also have viral in case I overstrip. That will be doing 75% more damage against flesh or cloned flesh. Keep in mind that elemental damage should always be slapped on a weapon depending on where you're going and who you're fighting. And check the wiki for different vulnerabilities and resistances for each and every faction. Now let's grab Vauban, because unfortunately I have blast, so I'm gonna be knocking the targets all over the place. I'm gonna be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gunner level 120, and using Vauban's free ability I'm just gonna keep them in the air so they don't get knocked all over the place. And as you will see, the Phage is able to tear through these guys quite quickly and efficiently, especially after a bit of armor has been stripped away. I'm not even overstripping, even though I'm rocking a 100% status chance. Now these are fairly common mods. The only one that is a bit more expensive is Shell Shock. Shell Shock can be farmed from the mission Elgar on the planet Eris. You guys will have to find all the free secret caches, then upon extraction you got a 5% chance of getting Shell Shock or High Voltage. The grind on Elgar is pretty crappy, I gotta admit. I'm currently in the process of doing a build guide for it. I would honestly recommend you hit up the trade chat and pay 40-50 plats, something like that, as cheap as you can. You can also check Warframe Market. And this is the base build I'm gonna be recommending for the Phage. Now, I know what you guys are saying. What about Blaze? What about this? What about that? Always keep in mind how status procs work in Warframe. If, for example, if I was to draw Vicious Spread and put in Blaze, which overall adds more raw damage, it will mess with my elemental setup. Again, the blast against the heavily armored target does deal less damage, so keep that one in mind, which is why I recommend Vicious Spread in this case over Blaze. It's not a bad idea, just keep in mind how elementals work. We're gonna switch to a bleed build, and I only kept Point Blank, Hell's Chamber, and Vicious Spread. The bleeds will be obtained through a very overpowered mod called Hunter Munitions. Hunter Munitions will grant you a 30% chance per crit to apply a slash status to an enemy. Now unfortunately the crit chance of my Phage is only 19%, so I need to get that as high as I possibly can with crit chance effects. Unfortunately for shotguns, Blunderbuss is not even close to Point Strike. Point Strike for rifles offers 150% extra crit chance, while Blunderbuss only offers 90% crit chance. My crit chance goes up to 36.1, and of course crit chance is nothing without crit damage, so we're gonna be adding Ravage. 60% crit damage, bumping the crit multi to 3.2. Now I'll be honest, this is not enough. This is honestly not enough to make the build work, so we need to go even further into crit chance and of course crit damage. Laser Sight, this is an event mod. The event is the Acolyte event, which will start tomorrow. I don't know when you're watching this video, but again, this is an event only mod. It's not very expensive. I think it's around 15 to 20 plat. On headshot, 120% crit chance while aiming for 9 seconds. As for the last mod slot, we're gonna be using Shrapnel Shot. 99% crit damage while aiming for 9 seconds. And this, unfortunately, is an on-kill effect, which I don't particularly like, but there you go. It's a lot more crit damage than Ravage with its 60% crit damage. There's always the option of Prime mods, of course. Now, this still is not good enough. I'm gonna need to go into Arcanes to make this Bloody Bleed build work, and we're gonna be using Arcane Avenger on damage, 14% chance for 30% crit chance for 8 seconds. Now, this is an additive after bonus. It simply adds after all of the effects from my weapon. So with all the buffs up, I'm gonna be getting roughly an 89% critical chance out of the Phage and a lot of crit damage, mostly because of Shrapnel Shot. And we're gonna test it out like this. I don't need to build viral on the weapon because it has innate viral, so that works quite nice. Once again, corrupted heavy gunner, but this time I'm gonna unpause the AI and simulate. They're gonna have to damage me a little bit before though, so I can get my buff. There we go, Arcane Avenger, and of course I'm gonna go for flat headshot. Just so you can see exactly how much bleeds you're gonna get out of this one. You want to hit a target till about 50 to 60% health, and as you saw there, the bleeds are quite nice, and now I'm getting the benefit of Shrapnel Shot, more crit damage. That means higher value bleeds. And it can work like this if you so desire. I honestly think that this weapon is meant to be used with a 100% status chance build, but you do have the option of going for bleeds if you enjoy Hunter Munitions, if you enjoy bleeding a target out, then there you go. It can work like this, especially if you get a Riven to further augment a build such as this one. And that is pretty much what the weapon can do with a bleed build. It is efficient, it does work, but it implies you have Arcane Avenger. That is the biggest upgrade to this build. And Arcane Avenger currently, on PC at least, the R3 costs about 200 plat. Alternatively, you can start Eidolon farming, and it drops from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. I do enjoy the Phage. The problem I have with it is that there are so many other weapons that do what it does, only slightly better. If you want more AoE damage, then Amprax or Ignis Wraith. If you want more single target damage, then the Synapse is the way to go. In any case, I got one more build for you guys, and of course this is a Riven setup on loan from a friend. Thank you very much. We got a crit Riven, crit chance, crit damage, and punch through. I am very grateful for that punch through because again, the 0.5 meters worth of default punch through that the wiki claims the weapon has, I don't really feel it. And the rest is pretty much the same as the bleed build. I got Hunter Munition, Blunderbuss, Shrapnel Shot, Prime Point Blank, and Prime Ravage, Laser Sight, and I simply dropped the Vicious Spread. Now we're gonna test it out like this to see what kind of results we get, and of course we're all gonna be keeping Arcane Avenger. Now because of that Riven, I got over a 100% crit chance with all the buffs up. Hit me, boys! No, nothing? There we go, Arcane Avenger. We're gonna have to get a kill so I can get the crit damage out of Shrapnel Shot. A lot more crits, I'm even getting orange crits, and you will see that the values of the crits of course have gone up, and so have the bleeds. Again, you can go for something like this. I still believe that a 100% status chance build for the 460-60 mods is better for this specific weapon, but it's not your only option. If you get a crit chance, crit damage Riven, it's not worthless, definitely not. Alternatively, once again, for a Riven, you can go for status chance, so you don't have to have blast on the weapon, of course, and you can drop some of those 60-60 mods. 25 meters worth of range on this one, and I couldn't find any damage fall off because once again this is a beam weapon, so damage fall off should not really be a concern. Now that is pretty good, definitely. It can work like this. There's one more thing I want to do before heading out. I'm gonna grab Lady Mirage Prime and buff everything with Warframe Buffs. Now let's talk about Warframe Buffs for just a second. First of all, when it comes to the aura, corrosive projection is guaranteed to give you the best results when fighting Grineer. However, you do have an option, Shotgun Amp. 18% extra damage to shotguns. It's an aura, so everybody in the party will be receiving this benefit, and of course it is stackable. The issue I take with Shotgun Amp is the fact that it's only 18%, so keep that one in mind. When it comes to Arcanes, Arcane Rage from my point of view is 100% mandatory. On headshot, 10% chance for plus 120% damage to rifles for 16 seconds. And the Phage is a shotgun, so you're not getting the benefit, right? Well, wrong. In actuality, Arcane Rage grants its benefit to almost any primary weapon in the game, and you can check that info out on the wiki. And of course, Arcane Avenger for the reasons mentioned earlier. And we're gonna test it out like this. Same targets as before, no paused AI, so they can hit me and I can get my benefit. And we're gonna activate Mirage's third ability for a massive damage increase, as well as her clones. And we're just simply gonna go to town. Now, when you're rocking this much power, you can simply tear right through everything, or you can let the bleeds do their magic. Look at the value of those bleeds, absolutely bloody glorious, 5,000 plus. And we're gonna switch to the elemental setup in a second as well, because again, this is an option, this is a way you can build a Phage, but from my point of view, it is not necessarily the best way. Now, if you guys were thinking, what about spraying all over the place? I'm sorry, but per beam it doesn't do that much damage. I honestly believe that you gotta focus the beam on a target. Another problem is that even if I was to add some fire rate or anything to the Phage, it won't lower the time of focus, which again is a kind of a personal problem I have with this weapon. Back to the elemental setup, and to give it a fighting chance, we're gonna be using Prime Point Blank instead of the normal version. And of course, we're gonna be using Vicious Spread instead of Blaze. Once again, Blast deals less damage against heavily armored targets. Of course, we're gonna be spawning in the exact same targets as before and same arcanes. Now, what you can do for arcanes is go for Arcane Acceleration. Just keep in mind that that one works off of crit chance, and the base crit chance of the Phage is not exactly high at 19%. And we're gonna go to town. Now, we do have Blast, which means I will be knocking these guys all over the place, and it's gonna be a bit more difficult to go for headshots. But as you can see, I am able to tear through them like there's no tomorrow. Absolutely bloody glorious. A whole lot more efficient than before. Just because you have a Riven for a weapon doesn't necessarily mean that the weapon will perform better. You need to understand how each and every weapon functions and what kind of stats you should be getting for it. In the case of the Phage, going for crit chance and crit damage is simply not optimal. I would go for status chance so I can play with elementals a whole lot better and I can get rid of the blast. Multi-shot and damage, always good. Guarantee. And that's pretty much it for this review. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means, leave it in the comment section down below. I honestly cannot promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, but I will be reading through each and every comment. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.